All right, if you're just joining, you're welcome to the session. Yeah, you're welcome to today's session. We are here to talk about tax, Nigeria digital economy, and we are looking at how we can understand the tax compliance realities that's been going on in Nigeria of today. We would like to welcome our speaker in person of Mr. Kelechi Ibe. The session will start in the next 4 minutes. We are trying to wait for others to join so that they won't get behind. Thank you very much, and get a place to sit while we enjoy the session.
Let me come and be my bag. Okay,
So if you're just joining, we've started the session already, but we are at the introduction agenda now. So kindly introduce yourself in the chat. Let's know where you're joining us from and your name. Today's session is going to be an inspiring one. I would like to know you in the chat while we are waiting for others to join. Thank you. You are welcome, Abdul. I could see your message. Mr. Mubarak Erifolami, you're also welcome. Mr. Edwin, I can see you in the chat. Cecile, you care to share where you're joining us from? You're also welcome, Engineer Abdul Martin. Yeah, I could see Okorua Ubeyi from Lagos. You're welcome. Ramanjago, we can see you in the chat. You're welcome. Mr. Define Dari, you're welcome. Mr. Ugoshuku is also welcome to this session. Thank you for joining while we are expecting other participants. All right, I think it's time to start. Good evening, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining once again. My name is Abolaji Abdurrahman, and I will be the moderator for today's session. Joined with our speakers. We have two speakers for today's session. Mr. Kelechi Ibe, who is an award-winning tax expert as well as a lawyer. who's going to be sharing insights on the topic of today. We said Nigeria digital economy, understanding the new tax compliance realities. This is an amazing session that has been created from AutoRite Integrated. It is definitely essential in today's realities of compliance, right? And I believe the speaker has a lot to give to us today. So without wasting much of our time, I would like to inform us that we are also live on YouTube. We are live on Twitch. You can definitely join and we share the link. We share to others to join so that they can also benefit from today's session. You're welcome. I would like to proceed to share the bio of the speaker. Yes, permit me to share my screen. Yeah, if you can see my screen, can you give a thumb up? Yeah. All right. The speaker of today, Mr. Kelechi Ibe, is a co-founder and the CEO of TaxStream. TaxStream is an AI-powered tax compliance solution built for African businesses. He is a corporate and tax lawyer with over 9 years of extensive experience, spanning from taxation to mergers and acquisitions, to finance and general corporate advisory. He has a proven track record of providing strategic advice on high-profile, complex, and local international transactions. His career trajectory includes roles as a senior associate at Udo Udoma and Bello Osagie, and in the deal advisory and M&A tax unit of KPMG in Nigeria. In recognition of his potential, he was seconded to Latham and Watkins in London in 2024 through prestigious International Lawyers for Africa, the ILFA, flagships and comments program. This is an amazing profile of our speaker. If you're happy to have our speaker in today's session, will you give it some reactions? Show some reactions. Let's welcome our speaker to the stage. We are so glad to have Mr. Kelechi Ibe. This is an amazing profile. Thank you very much for joining. And yeah, thank you, Mr. Ibe. Could you just say hi to the house?
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Kelechi. You're welcome to this program. All right, so the topic of today's session, what people want to benefit from today's session, has been put across. In fact, we've been all across social media. Imagine we've been on Twitch, on other social media platforms, and the publicity of this event has been going wide and far enough, right? For today's session, what's it all about? We want to discuss the Nigeria digital economy, understanding the new tax compliance realities. And I would say that this is an important topic, an emerging topic in the Nigeria digital space, or in our economic space generally. And people want to know some beautiful insights around this, right? So my first question to you, sir, is that we understand that the Nigeria digital economy is growing rapidly, right? But from a tax perspective, what major changes have occurred in the last few years that businesses should be aware of? Because we created this to also address business needs, and most especially small, medium businesses, right? So the digital economy has grown rapidly, but what are the major changes that has happened in the last 5 years?
Okay, thank you. I think so. Your line is breaking. I don't know if it's just from my end or if everyone else is experiencing it, but I think I got the question. But maybe if others have experienced, maybe you can just indicate in the chat. So maybe Abdul can check his internet. But can you hear me very well?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Mr.
Okay, awesome. All right. So yeah, so the changes that have occurred in the Nigerian tax ecosystem within the last 5 years that most businesses should be aware of, particularly in the digital space or digital technologies that are now being deployed. Well, I can say I can speak to about four of them that have occurred. One is something called the significant economic presence tax regime, which simply means that if you were a foreign company doing business in Nigeria, even if you're not physically in Nigeria, if you're providing digital services to people that are in Nigeria, you're going to have tax obligations in Nigeria. So before now, for you to have to pay taxes in Nigeria, you have to be doing business in Nigeria. And that used to mean physically being present in Nigeria, having a company set up in Nigeria, a business place in Nigeria. That used to be the understanding of doing business in Nigeria. But since 2019, since 2019, 2020, the concept of significant economic presence was introduced, which means if you're a foreign company and you're doing business in Nigeria, you services, from Nigeria, even if you're not physically in Nigeria, you'll be said to have a significant economic presence in Nigeria. If you make up to 25 million from that transaction, from your transactions with Nigerians. So what that meant was a lot of businesses that were making money from Nigeria without paying taxes, betting platforms, streaming sites, a lot of those platforms that ad agencies, there are a lot of companies that do business in Nigeria without having a physical presence. They could be foreign companies. They started having tax obligations in Nigeria and now had to start filing tax returns. So that was a significant change that happened in the tax ecosystem that affected a lot of foreign companies. But then the ones that also affected Nigeria, and the one that has just been introduced now under the new tax laws, is something called the e-invoicing regime, which is meant to replace paper invoices or PDF invoices. And what that simply means is, in a very short time, within the next 2 years, every business in Nigeria will be required to issue and receive electronic invoices, which means when you're going to buy things, income tax obligation at all in Nigeria, but you will need to file your return, but you don't need to pay income tax. Then if you make up to 100 million and above, your income tax is 30% of your profit. So you see, the law has actually given more incentives to small businesses in the sense that under the old laws, 25 million and above, you had to pay tax. But now you only have to make up to 100 million to pay income tax, which means less businesses will pay taxes. And that's one misconception a lot of businesses have. And then the final one on this point is they have been concerned that the government would tell your bank to take your money and pay to them. And so some people have been concerned that the NRS has the power to debit your accounts if you're owing taxes. Now, that is true in a limited sense, and I will explain. It is true that the government has the power under the new tax laws to debit your account and take your money if you are owing taxes. But that power has always existed before. Now, it's not a new thing. People are just becoming aware of it now, but they haven't been exercising that power even when it existed since 2007. That's been an old provision. But the reality is that provision is not applied automatically. For the government to debit your account and take your money, it has to be established that you are actually owing taxes, which means that they will issue you a notice of assessment to say, hey, ABC Limited, you are owing us 10 million. They will calculate the tax and show you how they came about the 10 million. Now, you have a duty as ABC Limited to respond to that letter and say, I'm not owing you any money. And that is called an objection. So if you need to object to that assessment effectively is what I'm saying. If you don't object to it, the law is that after 30 days, if you receive that letter from the NRS or any tax authority and you do not respond within 30 days, that assessment has become final and conclusive, which means because you did not object, you've accepted liability and you're now owing the government money. But if you object within 30 days, you have the freedom to, the government also has to respond to your objection. And you guys can be doing the back and forth. And at some point, you get to court. And until the matter is resolved in court, you don't have to pay any money. But if you don't respond within the timeline, which is 30 days, the law assumes that you don't have a defense. And so that money that the government is saying you are owing becomes a debt. And that's when the government can now take steps to debit your account to pay that tax because you did not object to the assessment. And the way they do that is they usually would write to your bank. Your bank oftentimes will request for a court order, and they will get a court order and then give it to the bank and then, debit your account. So the point I'm making is that there's a whole process that leads up to the government debiting your account. It's not automatic that because the government just says you're owing money, they just go into your account and take money. No, there's a process. So you need to be on the lookout. If there is an assessment, you need to respond within the timeline. So those are some misconceptions that I think a lot of businesses are not aware of, and they need to pay attention to.
All right. I feel that's a great one, honestly. In fact, I'm just getting to know about that processes now that the governments have to first of all push the assessment to you before they began to then debit your account for any form of tax or your tax debt. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi. And I'll ask a last question before we throw the mic to the audiences so that they can ask that question in the chat. So the last question is around policy and regulatory. So now we are talking about digital taxation, how the digital economy has been going about. So for businesses that are actually not local, that are international, what should they be expecting from the Nigeria tax policies? Is there something new they have to be aware of? Because we believe that today's call is not just from Nigeria alone. We have some people who are joining us across the country, right? So what should they be expecting in terms of the new of the tax regulations?
Okay, yes. So in terms of the new tax provisions and how they affect international foreign companies, essentially, a lot of the businesses operating internationally already have a sense of what it means to be doing business in Nigeria and their tax obligations. So, for the most part, not so much has really changed for them. I think just a few things have changed. One is, so again, I'll just reiterate the point I made about significant economic presence, which is if you're providing services digitally to Nigerian people in Nigeria, even if you don't have a physical presence in Nigeria, you have a tax obligation in Nigeria. So that has continued, but it's not currently effective because the Minister of Finance needs to issue guidelines or regulations on how the significant economic presence rule would work. But the provision is there in the law, so we await the issuance of that regulation, essentially. So beyond that, the other part that businesses need to be aware of is that Nigeria now has like a minimum tax regime, but that's for very big businesses that make around 750 million euros in revenue every year. So basically, if you are a foreign entity of that nature, there's a minimum amount of tax you must pay in Nigeria, and it's around 15% you have to pay at least 15% of your income from Nigeria as tax to Nigeria, basically. So that's one aspect that a lot of foreign businesses need to be aware of. Another one is their VAT obligations. If you're selling anything to Nigerians, you need to be careful of, that you're complying with your VAT obligations. And I think I've already spoken about VAT. You need to register for taxes in Nigeria, issue tax invoices, collect the tax, remit the tax. And those are compliance obligations that can be automated, like I said, using technology products. But imagine businesses operating, think about a business like ChatGPT that is used all over the world. They have VAT obligations in each country. If you look at your invoice from ChatGPT, if you pay for a subscription, you would see that it has VAT. There's a 7.5 VAT on the money you're paying. And the reality is that VAT is Nigerian VAT. If they are providing that service in Ghana, they will charge Ghana VAT or the equivalent of Ghana VAT. Same with every country they're operating, they need to charge the VAT for those countries and remit it to the tax authority. So doing business globally has cost implications. And so no matter the scale of business you're doing, you need to register for Nigerian VAT. You need to be within the Nigerian tax system and comply. So companies like Twitter, the reason why they were shut down, or the basis on which they were able to shut down Twitter at the time, was because when they looked at their operations, they were actually not complying with tax obligations in Nigeria. And the government said, "You're doing business in Nigeria. How come you're not complying with tax obligations?" And that was one of the bases that the government had to shut down the operations in Nigeria. So foreign companies have VAT obligations. They do not have withholding tax obligation, but they have VAT obligations and income tax obligations in Nigeria. And then, of course, if you hire employees in Nigeria, if you're a foreign company, you hire Nigerian employees, you also have to handle their Nigerian taxes. So as an employer, you need to register for tax in Nigeria and ensure that, you deduct taxes from your employees and pay. Or if you're not doing that, you have to ensure that your employees are paying their taxes. As long as they're in Nigeria, you have an obligation as their employer to ensure that their taxes, those employee taxes, are paid. And so you see, from everything I've said, you can tell that it's really a cumbersome requirement for a lot of foreign companies. But that really is the reality of doing business in Nigeria and in most other countries of the world.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Kilechi. In fact, I could relate with the last part of what you said earlier about the differences in how tax is being made across countries. Because there was a time I was subscribing for a tool, then I used a billing address of the United States. I was surprised when I saw the charges that the software actually requested for me. So immediately I changed it to
Sorry, I cannot hear
UAE.
you,
Sorry.
Abdul.
So is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Sorry, could you say what you said in the last 10 seconds?
All right.
I can hear
Can
you
you hear
now,
me
yeah.
now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Yeah,
can hear
yeah.
you, yeah.
So I was saying that I could relate to the last part of what you just mentioned about the differences of how tax are being charged across countries, right? So there was a time I was making a transaction from a software provider. Then I imputed that my country is from the United States because I'm using a dollar card, right? So I found out that the tax rate was a bit higher than usual. So I then had to change it back to Nigeria. Then I saw the tax rate actually was reduced. So that's so important, and I got to relate with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi Ibe, for your time over since we started. We believe it's now time for the audiences to share their questions in the chat so we could ask the speaker. But if there is no question for Mr. Kilechi, then we have to proceed to the next session. We appreciate you so much, Mr. Kilechi, for joining us today, and we believe the insights that you've shared today have been well noted by the audience, by our participants, as well as our invited guests in today's session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. So do I take it you do not have questions?
Yeah, well, you can just stay behind while we have the next session. So once there's a question, we can raise it up by the end. Yeah.
Okay, I think I can see someone's hand up. Maybe they have a question, I'm not sure.
Okay. Akonde, will you go ahead to unmute your mic? Still. Akonde, you can unmute your mic and speak, please.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Akilechi. Thanks for the insightful session. So my question is, as an individual, I've been kind of confused. A lot of false information was circulating last year about adding descriptions to transfers, etc. So I'm kind of confused. How will the government really determine an actual income for an individual? For example, most of the people, they have 1, 2, 3 banks. For me, for example, I have like 3 banks. I have Zenith Bank, UBA, and First Bank. Now, how will the government determine what is my actual income apart from the salary, right? I don't do other business, but people send me money randomly, maybe gifts, or okay, help me keep this money for a while. So how will the government determine? Won't they just tax me randomly?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and the reason it's so important that that question was asked is that a lot of Nigerians do not realize what their tax obligations are as individuals. So if you work for a company and the company as an employee and the company deducts tax from your income every month and they pay, that is the tax in relation to your personal income. Your personal income as far as your employment goes in relation to your employment. Right. So, but if you, like you mentioned, you do some gigs, right? Your employer does not know about those gigs. Your employer only takes tax from the income they're paying to you. If they pay to you 2 million naira in a month, they take your tax, and then they pay the net amount to you. That's all they know. They don't know whether you earn 500,000 that month from doing a voiceover for somebody or from building a website for somebody. They don't know that. They don't know whether you got some money from an investment you did and they paid you some returns. They are not aware. So because of that, the law has introduced another layer of obligation for individuals to report their income themselves. And that's sort of what you see in other countries like the US, the UK, and most other countries of the world. And it's called the self-assessment system, which is outside of the tax you pay in your employment, if you earn any other income, you need to report that income to the government by yourself. So, and it's done, you do that by the 31st of March every year. And it's a good thing. I've seen a question that relates to that. So, let me speak about it automatically at once. So now what your employer does is your employer would deduct your tax every month and pay. And then by the 31st of January every year, they will report to the government all the taxes they deducted, how much they paid to you, how much taxes they deducted. So that thing is called Form A. They do it, your employer is the one that has that obligation, and they do it on the 31st of January every year in relation to payments that we made for the last year. So for all your salaries from January to December 2025, by 31st of January 2026, every employer had to report all salaries and deductions and everything and taxes to the tax authority in the state where their employees live. So if they have employees in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, they will have to report to LIRS, Lagos Internal Revenue Service, report to the FCT IRS for those living in Abuja, report to the Rivers State Internal Revenue Service for those living in Port Harcourt. Now, that is your employer's obligation. You as an individual, after your employer has reported the one they did in January, by 31st of March every year is when you now submit your own disclosure of income outside of employment. So you now disclose, okay, I have a property in Asokoro and the rent of that property is 10 million. I got the 10 million. You need to report that income as an individual. Oh, I gave somebody a loan or I gave out a loan and the loan has interest. I got 2 million as interest on the loan I gave. You need to report that 2 million interest as an income. Oh, I built a software and I licensed it to somebody and they pay me royalties for my software. I got 10 million last year for that software. You need to report it. All of these are not captured in your personal income, in your employment income. Those are all outside of your regular employment. So you have a duty as an individual to report those extra income and then compute your tax by yourself and pay the tax to the government. And that has to be done by the 31st of March. Otherwise, the government, now, you ask the question, how would the government know? You have many accounts, right? As of today, the government doesn't really have a way of knowing in real time how much money is in your bank account. They don't know. So they are relying on you to disclose. But if for any reason they get to find out and you come into their radar and they do like an audit and they find out that you made some money that you did not disclose and pay taxes on, they will calculate that tax you were supposed to pay. They will add penalty and interest. So penalty is like, I think the penalty for non-disclosure of your income is that you pay the tax. I think you pay another 100% of that money you didn't pay plus interest at CBN rate. So sometimes if you were supposed to pay 2 million as tax, you end up paying 4 million by the time they add up the penalty and interest. So, but it's about whether they get to know. And sometimes people don't know that there's a way that the tax authorities get to find out. So for you now, let's say for instance, you rented your house to someone and they paid you rent and you didn't disclose that income. The person, let's say you rented that house to a company and the company disclosed that they are paying rent in their financial statements and the tax authorities are investigating that business and they see that they made they made a rental payment to you. They will check, okay, this person said they paid rent to this person and they are trying to claim that money as a deduction from the business. They will now check whether the whether the money that was paid to B, whether B actually disclosed and paid, because they always follow the money, they follow trails, right? So sometimes they go to do an audit, they see an invoice from you to another company to pay a certain amount of money for a particular service. Now that company shows that they paid that money. They'll follow that trail to check who that money was paid to. And if they check and they see that you didn't pay your tax on that income, that's when they now start auditing your account. So even though they don't have access to your bank account, they have access to information from other people that they are auditing that can lead to you. And then that's just one aspect. Starting from this year, the tax authorities now have the banks, stockbroking firms, and every other financial institution, which includes OPay, Moneypoints, PalmPay, any financial institution. Now, under the law, they have a duty to disclose any bank account that makes up to 50 million naira a month. So at the end of the year, they will check any account that had turnover, income, and everything up to 50 million in a month in that account. They have a duty to report that account to the tax authorities. So those ones will now check. And then for businesses, if your business makes up to 250 million naira in a month, into inflows and all of that, the banks and every financial institution has a duty to report your bank account to the tax authority so they can look into it and make sure that you pay your taxes. So as that keeps happening, you see that a lot of businesses are coming into the radar. And finally, what the government is trying to do under the new tax regime is something called tax intelligence, which is they're going to use a lot of your activities to determine your income. So you might say, oh, they don't know. Maybe you're only reporting your employer is only the one reporting your income, but then they see your lifestyle. Like you travel every day on your Instagram, you're going to every month to travel for holidays, or you own a property and you post online and all of that. They check all the records and they see that your net worth is higher than what you're paying taxes on. That would open you up for investigation. But the final reality really is that the tax authorities cannot come to everybody. They can't demand taxes from everybody. So they usually go for the high net worth individuals, the people who have a lot of money to give. They're the ones they tend to hold on to. The actors, your actresses, your content creators, your politicians, your business owners, the people that can give them good money, they're the ones they tend to chase. They don't really have time for small fries that just have small money to pay. But doesn't mean that you shouldn't comply, because you never know where your name will come up and it will lead right to you. So I think I've answered that question and the question that had to do with 31st of March.
Yeah, honestly, that's so great. Thank you very much, Mr. Akonde. Will you confirm that answered the question, Akonde? Just give you a like. So there's been a lot of questions people are asking in the chat. But I would like to also invite Prince Dumoire, who is a solution engineer from WaterRight Integrated, who will also join this panel in answering some questions. So first off, the question I have here, Mr. Kelechi, would you like to just answer that within 1 minute? Someone said he lives in Lagos, but he earns money from the United Kingdom and Enugu. So he earns money from United Kingdom. He also earns from Enugu on different things. So where will he be paying his tax to? Is it Lagos or Enugu tax office?
Lagos, you pay your tax to the tax authorities where you live.
Where you live. Okay. I think that answers that. So quick one, Mr. Prince. Kindly hold on, Mr. Kelechi, while we give Prince also a chance to also answer some questions. Prince, so we understand that the tax has been really evolving, right? We understand that, right? So what are the role digital platforms, or let's say cloud systems and automation play in helping business stay compliant?
Okay, so please come again with that question.
All right, so
The roles that
digital platforms, most especially cloud systems, are playing in helping business stay compliant.
All right. So like Mr. Ibe has explained earlier, right? So the government has made this filing, monitoring of taxes digital. So now digital platforms are the tools that businesses can now use to ensure that they are in compliance with the the regulatory bodies of the tax. Because the government now wants every business transactions, invoices to be online. So what it means is that businesses need to be able to comply to this. So how do you comply to a digital system? You comply to a digital system by being digitally inclined. So these platforms give businesses the opportunity to be digitally inclined. So it gives them a platform to streamline their compliance processes and reduce operational complexity. So businesses don't have to start keeping hard copies of invoices, hard copies of receipts. These digital platforms now give them the solutions, the applications for them to be able to comply to the regulations of the government or the requirements of the government.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. It's also important to also note that Authorite Integrated is also working towards helping you transmit your e-invoices into a structured and more compliant way that the NRS actually wants, as Mr. Kelechi also mentioned during his answer to those questions that we asked. So I could see that Mr. Kelechi has been answering some questions in the chat. Somebody asked, what about if I make extra income from investment like fixed deposits? Deposits, I guess the bank would have removed tax from the interest on the fixed deposit. So Mr. Kelechi has been able to answer that particular question. So somebody asks again, good evening, Mr. Kelechi. I want to ask for a person doing POS business, bulk of the money entering their business account is not their personal money. How can such business track their tax? Would you like to answer that, Mr. Kelechi?
Yeah. So it's an important question, and mostly because a lot of people in Nigeria still have not learned to separate their personal income from their business income. So if you're running your POS as a business, you need to separate that money from your personal income. It's your business income. So the challenge always is that people dip their hands into their business monies, without any accountability to the business. And that's where the waters get muddied. So if you run a POS business and the money entering the business account, so the question is, the money entering the business account is not the personal money. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, for POS business, the money you're making is actually a fraction of the actual money. So maybe someone wants to deduct 10,000 naira, and you bill them 300 naira for every 10,000 naira that they deduct. Now, rightly so, the income, you'll be seeing a lot more money in your accounts, but that's not your revenue. So on that accounting, which is why it's important to keep your books well. If you want to use Excel, use Excel. If you want to use a digital tool to do it, use that. But in accounting, it's not every money that comes into your account that is your revenue or your income as a business. It is that 300 naira is your own money. So even if someone transfers 10,300, you need to prepare your books. That's where bookkeeping comes in, to separate the 10,000 naira from the 300. So because you're an agent, basically what you are, you're a mobile money agent, which is you're helping your bank, give money to their customers. And for doing that, you're earning a percentage of that money, which is the 300. So you're an agent. An agent only earns commission or agency fee, which is that 300. And that's what they report as income. Because under accounting principles, your income is money you earn for providing a service. So just take as an example, you're an agent, you help people get houses, and the house owner transfers 200 million to your account. 200 million is out of that 200 million, let's say 190 million is for the house, 10 million is your agency fee. You cannot report the entire 200 million as your income. You will report 10 million as your revenue, your income as an agent, and then the other 190 million would be cost of doing business, essentially. So that it's important, or as contract liabilities, there are different accounting terms to use, but the important thing is that you have to keep your books. And if you don't keep your books, what happens is that tax authorities come, if for any reason they come around. The way I've sat in tax, I've done at least 30 tax audits in my career, and I know how tax authorities behave. They just come and look at your bank statement. They tell you bring your bank statement, and they see 100 million in your bank statement. They just calculate tax on the 100 million. This is how much you're owing, right? But if you prepared your books, you'll be able to present your books and say, this is my books. Yes, I got 100 million in my account, but only 10 million was my own money. The other one was just money that I gave out to the customers from, I deducted from the account and paid to the customers, even though it came into my account. So that's where bookkeeping comes in. Because see, whether you succeed or fail in terms of tax depends on how much record you're keeping, which is what Prince was speaking about. You need to keep documentation. So you can't just, but again, like I said, a lot of the small businesses that do POS are not really the target of tax authorities. So it is important for you to keep your books just for record purposes. The chances that the tax authorities will audit POS providers is very slim, unless you're a very big business. But if you're doing, the roadside POS business and all of that, you're not like the target, but you still have to file your tax returns. And the reason is, if you don't file tax returns, there's something called tax clearance certificates, which you cannot get if you don't file your returns. And if you don't get a TCC, there are some transactions you cannot do. Very soon, some of these the agencies you work for, like maybe I don't know about there are different people you work with that you get their POS to do business. So they might start requesting that if the government tells them as a condition for issuing POS, you must ask the person to present some documents that they've been filing their tax returns. You see that a lot of businesses won't be able to get POS if they can't present their tax clearance. And it's something the government can do. They've done it before for different things. So it's just a matter of time when they are interested in looking at compliance. They can just say anything you want to do with other customers, or if you want to deal with government, you need to present a tax clearance certificate. And you can't get one if you're not filing your tax returns. And you can only file your tax returns when you're keeping your records properly.
All right. Thank you very much. So you cannot file your tax returns if you can't keep your record properly. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Kelechi. And I would like to direct the next question to Prince. Prince, do you foresee that tax authorities in Nigeria will begin to use AI and data analytics for tax enforcement, right? So, for example, Mr. Kelechi mentioned that the government haven't started the real-time analyzing of data of how money is coming into your bank account. But do you see that coming in the next few years?
Yes, very well. And it's because, before now, most of us really didn't know how tax work, right? So now, with this new system, there's now more knowledge. So what it means is that more people will begin to pay tax. And when more people begin to pay tax, it means there will now be volumes of work to do by the federal government. And what will make this work easy for them is AI and analytical tools, digital analytical tools, right? So if they had gone with the pattern of submitting physical invoices or physical receipts, it would have been so cumbersome, right? But now they are going with the pattern of submitting it digitally online. So it makes it easy for them, but the volume will still come. So certainly, they will go to the extent of using artificial intelligence and digital analytical tools. Certainly, it's just a matter of when. That's if they are not even using it already.
All right, thank you, Prince, for sharing that. I think, Akonde, do you still have a further question you want to ask Mr. Kelechi? Akonde, you can see your hands raised. All right, so Prince, I think we will just have to go ahead with you. So how can companies leverage technology to actually simplify tax reporting and reduce their compliance risks? Will you want to prefer answer to that question?
All right. So for companies, this is now a part that they might not be able to run away from. So it's just something that everyone has to comply to. And the easiest way to comply to this is just start applying and start using these solutions. Mr. Ibe mentioned that you can start from as basic in an Excel spreadsheet, right? Just make sure it's a digital channel. There are other solutions that have more detailed information. So they follow the pattern that has been provided by the federal government that registers your revenues, your expenses, your discount that you apply to customers. So businesses need to start using these solutions because it makes things very easy for them. And it's also important to note that there are so many fines that come with this. So a business might just, they will pay the tax, but they just delay in paying the tax, passing that time frame that was given to them by the regulatory bodies. They will have to pay a fine. And most of them, the reasons why they get into this fine net is because maybe they didn't prepare their books on time. And most of them didn't prepare their books on time because they had to start looking for manual things, looking for physical receipts, and then confusion starts looking for where maybe they didn't drop the receipt where they drop other receipts. But solutions like this, it makes everything easy because everything is now in one place. The CFO might have some of the receipts in his computer, while the internal auditor has another one in his computer, the MD/CEO has another one in the computer, right? But with using digital solutions like this, everything is in one place and it makes it easier and faster. Yes, so that's it. Blanche, I think you are still muted.
Oh yeah, sorry for that. So it makes it easier and faster, as you said. So once you deploy a cloud system into your ERP, or if perhaps you don't even have a channel of invoicing transmission to NRS, right? So you can actually come partner with Authority Integrated to help you with that. Thank you very much, Prince, for that insight. Akonde, would you like to ask your question now?
Yes, thanks so much for your previous response, Mr. Kelechi. So I was trying to ask, right? So you said we have till March 31st, right? So do I know as from your response, my obligation as a citizen is to document my monthly income so that I'll be able to report it to the tax officials. But now, right, it's just starting out. Am I going to document from this January 2026 or it starts from April?
So you need to start from, like I said, you pay your taxes on a preceding year basis, which is for the income you earned in 2025, from January to the end of 2025, you need to report that by 2020, by March 31st, 2026. So that's how it works. So for 2026, January to December, you then have to report by March 2027. So it's on a preceding year basis.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kelechi, for your for your detailed a very confusing thing. But I just want to ask some questions, right? First of all, I saw today on Linda Nkechi blog on Instagram that LRS is saying everybody must pay their or must file their tax by 31st of March. So, and they put out a link on their website where you go and follow the prompt and file your tax. So, what about people that don't, that don't speak English and or people that are not educated? How would they go about, doing that? That one is one, uh, right? Then my second question is, the rich, right? The rich, the real people that this tax NRS or FIS they are looking for. Those people are the people that evade tax the most. Why is this so? It's not just about Nigeria, it's also about the West too. They evade tax. Why do people that make these laws still leave loopholes for those people to evade the tax, while normal 9 to 5 people that are working their asses off are meant to pay, end up paying more tax, and there are no loopholes for those people? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So to respond to the first question, if you're, if you're an illiterate and cannot read it, an illiterate person is someone who cannot read, doesn't understand stuff. You could even be a digital illiterate, which is you might be educated, but you don't know how to use digital tools. You can't do stuff for yourself. Chances are that you're probably not earning enough. You're not earning enough money to even be in the tax radar. So one of the things I forgot to mention is that if you earn the minimum wage, you don't have any tax to pay. If you're earning, I think the minimum wage today is about 70,000 naira a month. You have no taxes to pay, because the law exempts all minimum wage earners from paying personal income tax. So those kinds of people are probably in the category of minimum wage earners, and they don't have any tax to pay. Secondly, if you nobody the thing about tax is, for the most part, it's hard to do it yourself, even if you're educated. Computing it yourself, going on tax on the LRS, for instance, if you're in Lagos, the LRS e-tax portal, to do it yourself is difficult. You need guidance to do it. That's the truth. So no one expects you to be able to actually do it yourself, So you need to speak to a consultant. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, to help you compute the tax and file. You can't do it yourself. If you want to do it yourself, you could. But the chances are that you might make a mistake, because tax is a specialized area. People like us try to make it sound simple, but it's really not as simple. And then, of course, you can rely on tools. What we are building at TaxStream is really for businesses. We're not doing personal income tax. But I know a few people who are building stuff. I'm sure if you check online, you'd find some people who are building tax compliance solutions for individuals that will help you calculate your income tax and guide you on how to submit it on the tax filing portal. But that's as far as it goes in terms of how you can comply. I think you just need to speak to an expert. And finally, the other thing to speak about is the other question you asked has to do with consultant. The reality really is that the rich people actually pay tax, but they don't pay as much taxes as they should pay. But whatever they pay is sometimes even more than what the average person pays, but they just don't want to pay more. So it's not like the government is not taking money from the rich. It's not like the government is not taxing the rich. Sometimes these rich people engage in very aggressive tax schemes. Not like what they are doing is correct, but they just do it. People advise them, oh, set up a trust in Cayman Islands, and put your assets in there, do this, do this, do this. There are times when those things crumble under scrutiny, when the tax authorities are scrutinizing the transaction. So it doesn't even mean that they won't pay tax eventually. Some of them end up paying taxes, even despite structuring their operations to avoid taxes. They end up paying. I think what the new tax laws have done is commendable, even though I think they should do more, which is the people who earn more are paying more taxes. The people who don't earn as much are paying less taxes. But I would like to see them even reducing the threshold, even reducing the tax on the poor people or the low income earners even more, so that they don't have to deal with the burden of compliance. But the reality is government needs money. The Nigerian government is broke, very broke. We don't have as much money as people think we do. We have the little money we have, our politicians are squandering the money. So the average person doesn't even feel the benefits of being a Nigerian. So because of how broke we are, I don't know if people are aware that the economy of Texas, of Dallas alone as an economy is more than the entire Nigerian economy. The economy of one, like a local government, if you wish, in the US under this Texan state is more than the economy of the whole country. So to tell you how this country, we don't have money as people think we do in this country. So the government only relies on taxes for the most part. Of course, they sell crude oil and all of that, but they also rely on taxes to help people, you know, to help put in some of the little amenities they are able to put in place. So it's not going to be possible for everybody not to pay taxes and only the rich to pay taxes. Everybody will have to pay as long as you earn a decent amount of income, you would have to pay taxes. The other thing is we now have to hold the government accountable. Paying the tax is one thing, but how do we ensure they're using the money for what we've given to them? It's not by stopping the tax payments or saying you won't pay tax at all. It's by ensuring that when you go to the poll to vote, you vote out a government that has mismanaged funds and has underperformed. It's not by refusing to pay the tax, because refusing to pay tax is illegal. And that has always been my position. I understand why Nigerians don't want to pay tax, but I mean, you can't just say you won't pay because you don't like what the government is doing with the money. You have to pay the tax, but then you have to hold him accountable.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi. And to add to that, it's also essential to understand the barrier that we faced in Nigeria, which is a language barrier. We have over 200 plus languages in the country. But so how do we think we can bridge the gap within this? So is that question that struck me to say some few things that Authorite Integrated is actually doing in our hand. One of it is the AI chatbot that we've built to speak all Nigerian languages, right? We are working towards it making it speak all Nigerian languages, and this can definitely bridge the gap of language when talking about tax. So this is a system that we can integrate for businesses who are businesses and definitely government organizations who wants to ensure the core compliance of the new tax regulations across the Nigeria across Nigeria, as a whole, right? Another another beautiful thing that Authorite also has is one of our tool which we call Genie, and Genie is an agentic AI that helps you to actually communicate in your language, right? So it can tell, okay, have you paid your tax today? It can send reminders. It can share you the details or give you the report of the tax that that you are supposed to pay, and so many other features that is attached to it, right? So this is essential to also indicate in this call. Thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi. And one last question that I would like to ask before we call it a day in today's session, which I believe has been an amazing one, is about it is when this conversation is sparking that thing just came into my mind. So how does the government really bridge the gap of some people who make their money in cash alone and not making any form of online transaction? I mean, they are not even keeping their money in the bank. So how does the government want to ensure that these people are also paying tax? Because we find out that some old businessmen and women actually make a lot of money, and they are actually supposed to be paying tax, which they are not paying. So how do you think, from your own knowledge, that the government could track this?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I think that from statistics, about 85% of transactions in Nigeria happen digitally. I mean, the other 15% that still happen outside of the banking system is going to be really difficult for the government to track, and that's the truth. But the truth is, all those people also pay taxes one way or the other. They just don't know that they are paying taxes. Those people buy things, right? And as they are buying, they pay VAT to the business they are buying from. Even if they are paying cash, they are paying. So they might not pay income tax, but they're paying all kinds of taxes. Where they are doing business, you have local government people come there to ask for some payments, and they pay business premises levy, markets, something. There are different taxes they pay at the end of the day. So whether they are making their money digitally or the government can track is one thing, but they are also contributing to the economy one way or the other by paying some taxes. Like I said, they pay VAT when they go to buy things. Some of those people, if they supply products to other companies, those ones deduct withholding tax from their payments. Sometimes they pay all those local government levies. So I think the government cannot have it all right. They cannot know everyone's income. They cannot make everyone pay taxes. So it's going to be pretty difficult to handle this one that has to do with cash payments. But I think they need to just focus on the digital, the ones that are coming within their radar first, and then, hope to catch the other ones later.
Yes, so they have to catch the other 15% later. Thank you very much. In fact, today's session has been an amazing one, and anyone who has joined definitely will be able to catch some important actions, important key insights that they will take away with. So I would like to give Mr. Prince to quickly run through the slide he asked for us before we then give a closing remark, and then we call it a day. So Prince, in 4 to 5 minutes, would you like to run through, please?
Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear, please.
All right, so I'll just run through this slide very fast. So most of these things in this slide are what has been spoken about already, right? So these are some of the realities of what it is now. This is currently a reality. It's not something we can run away from, right? And this session has explained everything to us. So now some of the key agencies are the Federal Inland Revenue Service, then the State Inland Revenue Services, because you have to pay your taxes to your state, the state where you're doing business or where you're working, right? So the big question now is, how can businesses keep up with this confusion? And like we have explained earlier, technology is the answer. Technology is what makes it easy. Technology is what makes it possible even, right? So we have to get into technology for businesses. So some of the reasons why tax still seem difficult: poor financial records keeping, businesses don't keep records, spreadsheets scattered across devices, manual accounting systems, and so on and so forth. And the result always comes to the business becoming reactive. So when an audit is about to go on, that's when the business are now looking for all their books, right? And then it becomes very confusing. And then compliance becomes stressful. Most businesses are not even able to meet up with the deadlines or even get their books together on time. And for now, the Nigerian government is bringing this new system. So what has changed? So tax authorities are now using digital systems to monitor economic activities, right? Tracking VAT filings for the sake of more efficiencies, monitoring taxes and deductions. So you have businesses now come to buy something, and then they are asking for your own company tax identification number, because when they are filing their own tax, they also have to impute it, right? So what this means now is that businesses must move from manual accounting to digital financial system. This is now compulsory, right? This even makes things easier for the business themselves. So it does not just give the government the ability to track these businesses or to monitor them. It also makes things easy for this business, because you can't avoid tax. I think I saw the penalties for evading tax. There are penalties for businesses. They can even do up to 3 years imprisonment, right? So it's not something we can avoid. It's not something we can evade. We just have to key into it, right? And then there are digital compliance infrastructures that centralize financial data, automate reporting, real-time compliance monitoring, and so on and so forth. So now there is a cloud-based financial data centralization, which centralizes accounting records, store invoices, receipts, and payments digitally. So you don't need to have a cupboard where you keep all your physical invoices. Everything is in the system. And one of the infrastructures that can be used, amongst many others, is the Amazon Web Services, which Authorite Integrated uses, right? So we have solutions that we built both for businesses and applications for individuals as well. Because as it is now, even individuals need to also file their taxes, right? So now I'll go straight to our ERP solution for tax compliance. That is the business value for ERP integration. So what our ERP enables organizations to do is to achieve full compliance with NRS e-invoicing. So by the left-hand side of this presentation slide, this is the NRS portal. And while filing an e-invoice, you see this section where it asks for what ERP solution does your business use. So Authorite Integrated Solution is built in compliance with NRS, right? So you don't need to have a record that you have prepared and doesn't comply with the federal government. So it's either bounces or it's rejected. So our solution provides this for you, reduces manual tax reporting errors, and then automates VAT reporting and reconciliation, and so many other advantages. So now, why do you think your business needs an ERP? So many people think, we don't need this. We don't do so much. We cannot do this for now, right? So the NRS requires companies to integrate their invoicing or ERP systems directly, right? They require you to now record everything digitally. It's a requirement. So without systems integration, I think this question was asked earlier, that do businesses really need this? And how can businesses leverage technology to achieve these requirements now? So it helps to solve the risk of compliance, right? It fixes manual reporting errors. It takes away delays in tax reconciliation, which can attract fines. And I'm sure no business wants to do that, right? So there are so many advantages that this brings to businesses. And in the final message now, what I would say is compliance should not be confusing. It's just coming in now, right? So it's normal for people to ask questions, businesses to ask questions, but it should not be confusing. And one thing that can make it easier and not confusing is technology. Technology transforms tax compliance from the reactive. So businesses start looking for their books when they want to be audited or when they want to submit their tax, they want to file their tax, right? So now it takes away reaction to being proactive. It takes away manual to automated. So businesses can just go into their ERP solutions by the click of a button. They have all their records for years. So it takes away manual and then brings automated. It takes away confusion and it brings clarity. So as Nigerians' digital economy evolves, businesses that embrace digital financial systems will be best positioned to remain compliant and competitive. So the future of tax compliance is digital, transparent, and automated. So every business should be able to achieve this as well. Thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Prince, for that final messages and your insights you've shared on the slide. So if you're a business and you're joining this session today, you have to know that you have to prepare your mind for compliance if you've not started, right? And Authorite Integrated could be your partner, right? So thank you very much. I want to first of all appreciate Mr. Kelechi Ibe, for the CEO from TaskStream, who has been able to share much. It can't say it's invaluable insight in today's session. I believe every member, including myself, have been able to gain from your experiences. I've been able to gain from your insight. I want to sincerely appreciate you for that. And if you also appreciate Mr. Kelechi, would you like to give him some reactions in the chat, please? I appreciate Mr. Kelechi, so I want to believe that every other person also appreciates him, like I do. Please, thank you very much, Mr. Kelechi, for joining us today in today's session. We also want to thank Prince Dumuhere for also sharing insights around how technology can help us in the world of tax today. Thank you very much for that too, and we also like to appreciate our participants in today's session. You've made this an amazing one. You've made it a success, and we want to also appreciate you. Thank you very much for joining. And on a final note, please try to follow Authorite Integrated on our social media platform. And as Prince has mentioned, if you have any business inquiry or any important questions that you have for Authorite as to regard how tasks and technology can work together, you can definitely send us an email on info@authoriteintegrated.com. Thank you very much for joining, and we wish you a very good day, an amazing day ahead. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.